You mentioned at the start that, of course, you end up working with people who are predisposed or open to the idea of adding strength into their program, right? Is there apart from, of course, the want to add strength in their program, is there a common thread that you see between these people? So maybe asked another way, who is a good candidate for strength training? If people are listening and they're maybe on the fence, what are maybe
Yeah.
the characteristics that you can maybe identify for people who would benefit the most from introducing strength training into their routine?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's something that we touched upon before, and I do sort of go back to your original argument about like the most important thing for runners is running, and like they need to build up the volume. Um, I think with runners that are fairly novice and are on like quite low amounts of running volume, if they're on the fence with strength training, like I would always say, probably the priority for you is you just need to do more of the sport. So over the course of the next year, let's be quite sensible, gradual, progressive with the way in which we're increasing your running volume. But that's probably where you're going to get most, just because you're currently on quite a low volume of work. I think probably the group of runners that benefit the most from strength training are those at the kind of like well-trained sort of sub-elite level. I don't know if I can put numbers on this, but yeah, those that are running like most days of the week, maybe 5 or 6 days of the week. They've built up to like a reasonable volume. They've remained healthy for a long time, and they're a little bit on the fence. They've maybe read an article about strength training, or there's some teammates down the club that engage with strength training a lot. The likelihood is that they're not going to be too far off their kind of genetic ceiling of VO2 max, but they've probably got still quite a lot of gain that they can make in terms of their fractional utilization and their running economy. And so, like I would certainly say for that type of runner, that engaging with strength training is probably going to give them quite a big kick over the next few months, particularly if they're preparing for something like a marathon. Engage with strength training for a few months, start building up your long runs for your marathon, and it will complement it quite nicely. So yeah, that kind of like sort of sub-elite, well-trained level of athletes are probably the best one. And there is some kind of evidence in support of that. So there was a systematic review published back in 2014 that had a look at benefits to strength training against training status. And they did a kind of quite nice meta-regression as part of that. And there's a little bit of a correlation between somebody's VO2 max and the benefit that they get from strength training. In other words, generally more well-trained runners seem to benefit a little bit more. And I think it is probably because it seems to be running economy that's like the main area that they can improve in when they're quite close to their genetic ceiling of VO2 max.